starting this, so it's fine.
That's fine.
Here we go.
Thanks. This is my third official podcast, so starting to learn the ropes.
What's up, everybody? We're live. At least I think we are, because live is always a major challenge for me. I'm here with Income Sharks, the legend. What's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Doing good. 8 o'clock at night is, I'm a boomer. It's like approaching my bedtime.
Make it quick.
I'm supposed to be laying in bed right now, reading a book and falling asleep with my reading glasses on my forehead or something. How's everything over there?
Pretty good. It's a little bit earlier over here. It's about 5 o'clock, so not quite ready for bed, but ready to talk some crypto.
Is that the Femex thing in
the
background?
I always try to throw something funny.
I'm sitting there, and one of the times I was holding it the whole time I was live streaming.
Yeah. I've never won an order before, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, but also but seriously, how dope was that gift box that Femex gave out?
I was not expecting. I was expecting maybe a shirt, a little something, but it just kind of kept coming, and I don't know. It was very well thought out, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it was amazing, man. I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, I just want to get a little background. I know you and I have been on a bunch of live streams together, random things before, but how did you get started in all of this? How did you get involved in trading, I guess, first, and then in crypto?
So I've always kind of been one of those little entrepreneurs, always doing little business adventures. But I think about 2016, I kind of heard about Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was only $400. I thought it was overpriced at the time, which is pretty funny looking back. But I kind of one night just I'm just going to give this kind of delve into it. And this is right. I think Ethereum ICO was about ready to come out. And I was like, oh, instead of buying the overpriced Bitcoin, I'm going to jump on something new. And that's where I just absolutely fell in love with crypto. The more I read people's opinions, thoughts, I kind of saw the revolutionary perspective of it. And that's where I really went heavy into crypto. Before that, I had traded stocks, just really small amounts. Again, I was kind of a little broke college student when I was kind of starting, so I didn't have a lot to play with. And then I was able to kind of work a little bit. And then once kind of crypto started, I was still working a full-time job, but I could just slowly see my passion start shifting towards that. And then I ended up kind of leaving the job. And then I just said, hey, I'm going to do this full-time crypto, threw a couple grand in there and just haven't looked back. So that's kind of been my origin story for how this whole started.
Yeah. So everybody has their sort of origin story, I guess, of how they got into trading, how they got into crypto, but then it's a whole other ballgame for how you got a Twitter following and start a group and you start to get clout or whatever, I was just a DJ. And so I had a blue check and I got lucky because when I started talking about crypto, people all of a sudden thought I was a crypto expert because I had a blue check already, I guess. So that's my best guess at it. But why do you think that you've been able to kind of, build such a strong following and, and how has that, I guess, benefited you? And, I know obviously you have your Discord and everything.
Yeah. So, kind of the following is one of those things I just kind of, before I really learned a lot of things, I would just back test a lot of indicators and things. I just spent hours and hours looking at patterns and things. And then once I kind of felt good, I was like, hey, I'm going to start kind of posting my ideas. And I was like, hey, do you guys notice this trend when this happens? And again, you get a couple likes here and there and nothing really gained traction. But I think I remember Vertcoin was when I think I kind of started exploding. It was about, it was 50 cents. And I was like, you know what, this thing could be the next Bitcoin. And I started reading, I just loving it. And I started posting charts and updates and everyone's like, wow, hey, I'm making 50%. Hey, I'm making 100%. Wow, your call's doing great. I'm like, hey, this is going to $2. I draw a line to $2. It hit $2. And then just people kind of oh, this guy knows what he's doing. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think I do. And you kind of start connecting enough things and you're like, hey, these patterns play out. If you really research a coin, you kind of have an edge. And then, I'd say that's kind of where the following started. So then people are like, hey, what's next? Then you find something else and you make enough correct calls and people start trusting you. You start trusting yourself and then you just kind of start learning from there. And
I joked on Twitter the other day that every once in a while I get a random DM for you and from you and you're like, check this coin out, no shill, no anything. It's just check this out. I'm looking at it, whatever. And I learned the hard way to pay attention because I did not pay attention one time. And I looked 4 hours later and it was 3x or something. But you obviously have a knack, I think, especially with, seemingly lower caps. Not that, you're not good at the other coins as well, but it seems that you have a real knack for sort of identifying what's about to move. at the
Yeah.
moment. You know what I
And
mean?
and so for
And
me, what's helped me with the micro caps is I do have kind of a little computer science website development background. And so for me, if I can look at a project and I say, hey, I can create that, I know it's just kind of garbage. And I'll go through probably every 20th Uniswap coin. I finally see something like, hey, you know what? They actually have a product that takes advanced skill. They're actually building something. They've put effort versus like, hey, here's a website with a WordPress template, a clone of the ERC20 Ethereum token. I mean, I could arguably do what these Uniswap people are doing in a couple hours. And so I like to look at like, hey, is this a cash grab? Are they just looking for money? Or is this a team of developers that have put in hours and hours? And you're probably going to see less likely a rug pull or something if a team spent months building a product. You're not just going to go sell out real quick for millions versus, hey, let's clone or fork or clone a product, throw a website, use a bunch of buzzwords, and then just sell out when it reaches a certain point. So
it's interesting though, because then like you sort of gathered a following from good TA, but
yeah,
now, sort of seemingly since the whole DeFi craze, it's really your fundamental analysis. And it's not like you're not doing fundamental analysis. Like you're doing it in a different way than most people. I've never heard someone say, hey, I'm going to go actually try to program this real quick and see if I can do
yeah,
it than any dummy can. I've never heard that approach. So it makes sense that that's working for you.
yeah. And I mean, I guess with like the TA and stuff, it's like there's no doubt I would still argue fundamental analysis is going to be the best. But if your TA is good, you can see the fundamental in a chart. If a chart just starts growing volume, all that stuff, obviously there's a reason people are buying. You don't need to know the reason. That's why you play into it. So it's fun for me to kind of switch back and forth from TA to FA because if I don't really know much about a chart, but I see it looks good, I'll just jump in because obviously someone else has done the research for me versus if there's not a lot of chart like Uniswap, there's not a lot of volume, not a lot of chart. I'm like, hey, I have to be the one that decides, hey, is this good? And then if it's good, I'll jump in. And then the volume kind of comes in, or it's like, hey, it's not. And part of the reason like I like sending accounts like you and whatever, I'll just throw a coin out there. It's like sometimes I get feedback like, oh, I've been approached by this coin, they're bad, or oh, there's some red flags. So I kind of like testing the waters. I'm like, hey, to me, this looks really good. If I've missed something, like somebody let me know. But if everyone's like, hey, this looks good, I'm like, all right, I think we have something that's actually legit. And kind of like the shopping coin I've talked about with you. I think it's pulled like a 5x now. It's me. I'm like, hey, you know what?
In
A
like a
lot of
week.
things look, yeah, in a week. And stuff for me, like, hey, this thing looks good. I'm gonna message a couple of guys I have. I have a couple of groups. I'm like, hey, do you guys see any red flags? To me, I don't want to be blinded. It's easy, you can get blinded. You think something looks so good. But if everyone's like, you know what, that looks good, they're in. I was like, all right, I think we have something. And that's kind of how I see these legit projects kind of take off.
Have you been a victim of any vicious rug pulls?
So I actually survived all of 2020 without a rug pull.
Me
And I
too.
woke up on January 1st in the morning to my first rug pull. And that was with G Farm. That one pulled a 4x over a week. And I kind of took some profits and stuff, but I was still like, again, the product is still really good. But supposedly there was a bug in the code that made the coin worthless. And then the devs posted like, hey, sell. And it crashed to zero. And here it was, I was like, probably my most confident one. Everything was good. And there's some bug. And again, I don't know if it was a true rug pull or if there genuinely was a bug, but basically that one it went arguably to zero. And that was on the first day of 2021. I was like, wow, this is a great start to the year. But I mean, it's the price you pay with Uniswap. And at the same time, I was up 4x. So part of it's a little bit greed. It's like, hey, you did good, take some profits. And that's something I've learned
That's
a
an
little bit
important,
more.
yeah, it's such an important lesson
Yeah.
in general. And what's crazy is like having the balls, I guess, to put your trades out publicly
Yeah.
and to share it online. You're really putting yourself out there. I noticed even when I like simply said, hey man, this guy like showed me this coin, credit where credit's due, it's gone up. And our comments, both of us, is like, you two fucking scammers.
Yeah, of course. No,
Like, and I'm like, dude, I'm just like, this guy made a great call and I respect it, and,
yeah,
but what is it like when you get that kind of abuse online? To me, I like overlook it, but I do hate the idea that someone might have lost money or something because of
yeah,
something I shared, given like they should know that they have to do their own diligence, do their own research and stuff. But there's a certain level of responsibility. So it's like really important to avoid those rug pulls.
yeah. Because they will. I woke up, yeah, January 1st, DMs full, everyone very upset and everything. But I think that one people are kind of able to calm down because they're like, hey, you know what? We know there's a risk. You don't make 50x, 100x plays in this like Wild West without taking the risk. And it's the same thing like nerds. I had almost 100x on that before. And I think rocks or something, I had like a 3x after that rug pull. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be some bad ones, but if you stick with it and you learn to risk or do risk management, like there's some gems out there. So it comes with the territory. And I think people kind of realize now it's like, hey, just don't dump all your life savings in Uniswap. Take a small amount. You can keep compounding and growing that. So at least for me now, if I get some hate from on like some of the calls, it's like, hey, you don't have to take it. Don't take the risk. I'm taking the risk. I can afford to lose that because I'm willing. That's my risk management. So if you want to join, let's do it together. If not, I don't know. I can't help you, but it is funny when you do a good call though. Everyone's your best friend. Like you're a genius. It's great.
I fucking love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for you posting that, I bet if they got in, they'd be like, oh my God, these guys are the best. But if they missed it, they're like, wow, I missed a 3x. These guys are scammers. We hate them. Like, why was I invited to the party?
Yeah, exactly. And we told you all about it. But yeah, I mean, my approach to Uniswap, sort of what you said, and it's been such a weird shift for me because I come from like trading on, legacy exchanges and stuff with robust orders and, OCOs and trailing stops and stop losses and stuff. And now basically like I'm off Binance, obviously, as an American, where I was kind of heavily trading altcoins. So now it's mostly Uniswap where it's the Wild West and there's nothing. So I take such smaller positions now because I basically view my stop loss as zero and calculate position size accordingly. But it's very strange, but it's still profitable.
Yeah, no, I think that's the best way to phrase it. Your stop loss is your whole position. Liquidation is your position. And so, I mean, obviously I like to think hopefully the projects I go in, it's pretty rare for rug pull, but you still plan for it. But also even with liquidity, you don't throw 50,000, 100,000 Uniswap coin because you're going to pump it 50% yourself. You take it small because you also can't get a position. So it's kind of
right.
For me, I've had fun. You throw a couple ETH in Ethereum, you don't really care what's going on. You come back a couple days later, like, wow, it's a 3x. You take those, jump to the next one, and all of a sudden you're at like 50 Ethereum. You cash out half and you play the Uniswap game again. And of course, there's been some that just keep running. You're like, well, I'll probably see it on Binance one day. But for me, that's not really how I'm playing. I'm just like, hey, I'm going to get in early. It's either going to be one that takes off and I'm going to ride it, or I'm just going to find one that, what's the next gem? So.
Speaking of what's the next gem, you have any ideas? You want to share your screen? Show some charts?
There's a couple promising ones, but I was going to hopefully share on one, but I found a couple red flags with one. Token economics and supply to me is really important because there's some killer projects. Everything looks so good. I go to trade it and I see there's like 6,000 volume. It's hundreds of billion supply. And I was like, all right, this is not doing anything versus while I'm looking at a coin, it's got like 100,000 million supply. I'm already seeing $1 million in volume. Like there's people are buying. And for me, one of my rules is if I see more 24-hour volume trading than the market cap, to me, that's very bullish on the project. So like the shopping.io, I was looking the other day. I mean, at one point it was 4 million market cap trading almost 8 million in and out 24 hours. So people are buying it, like there's good volume there versus a coin. It could be 20 mil market cap, 6,000 in volume. I'm not going to touch that, even if I think the project's good, because you don't ever want to be first in line. I know like it sounds good, like, oh, I'm the first investor, I got in early. The people that are first, that's such a risk. You want to make sure people are buying it. People are convinced that the project's good. Then you jump in, which is still early. Then you can ride it. You don't want to be the first one. Like, hey, I dumped in a couple Ethereum. Yeah, I can't sell it. I just lost 2 Ethereum. And so I just kind of played that way.
Yeah, it's sort of conceptually the same as like not trying to buy the dead bottom or top if you're a technical analyst. Like you make all your money sort of in the middle of the move, and same. You definitely don't want to be the dude who is all the liquidity. Definitely no good. So do you have any charts pulled up that you be willing to share?
Pull up some.
That's what they're here for, man. They want to see your charts.
I want to see the charts.
They're like, why is this guy asking questions? Fucking annoying. Put something on.
All right, so we'll look at Bitcoin first.
Sure. Yeah, always.
All right.
I'm curious as to your thoughts here for sure.
Okay. So I mean, I don't know if you've heard much about Supertrend. That's just been one I've
definitely all over. Like the only reason I've ever checked it out is because you mention it so often.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is good. That's how you find things, right? Yeah. That's the best part about Twitter, man. It's amazing.
So for anyone watching Supertrend, it is a free indicator. It is not my indicator. The one I've used, I usually switch between these two. I kind of like this new, the one I'm using. It kind of shows a nice green graphic, so it's kind of more visual for me. But for this one, Bitcoin, I've been really watching the super trends break. And so on the 4 hour, this is a super trend factor 2. So I call this one kind of my like not very confident super trend. It's more just earlier entries. So it's kind of a warning. So it was looking a little bit bearish here, but once it's broke, I'm like, hey, we're going straight to 40K. Sure enough, we go right there. And now this is kind of like the big boy. This is the bigger resistance for me. And you can see there's already kind of been a pullback. I've been just kind of doing a low lev short just in case we do get a big drop. I'd rather be hedged and have that really nice fall. But for me, it's pretty easy invalidation. If we close above here, I'm out, and that's going to be a really strong push. If we can flip this super trend, I'm assuming we're going to break all-time highs. So I think this level puts us at around, a little over 40,200. So I mean, if we can actually close a 4H candle above there, I think it's going to be a really, really important move. And then down here, OBV is another one I really use. I use that as a confluence with Supertrend because I notice when there's huge spikes in volume during the buy signals, it's a lot more. It's less likely to be a failure. So like down here, you see you're really trending up in volume. Sure enough, we're pushing up. But right now, I do see OBV at resistance. I see Supertrend at resistance. I think psychologically, 40,000 is a very tough barrier to break. So I am kind of hedging with just a low leverage short. It doesn't mean I'm bearish on Bitcoin, but
how
if I
dare you short Bitcoin? I know. How dare you?
And that's something people have a really hard time understanding. Like I'm a very big scalper too, and I will be in a short for literally 10 minutes, pull out a quick 1,000, and people are like, "Oh, you're calling the top of Bitcoin." It's like, no, I want as much Bitcoin as I can get, and if I see a short, I'm going to short so I get more Bitcoin, and then sure enough, when it goes up, I'm going to have even double profit. So I was able to, I think earlier I just bought this dip down here about 31,000 and closed my longs, but I was just like, we're in a bull run until otherwise, and that's how I'm going to always play the trends. Again, I don't want to be the first to call the top, and that's what mainstream media is doing right now. They're saying it's a top, Bitcoin failed, which makes no sense to me. We're almost at 40,000.
CNN says we're in a bear market.
Yep,
doesn't feel like
they haven't opened a chart. So
yeah. Interesting because I kind of and I've showed it before. I don't even need to bother, but we had that sort of ascending triangle yesterday, and the top of that triangle is in the 36.4, 36.5 region, and kind of wasn't retested as support, and that sort of is in confluence with what you're targeting here with a whole other. And I've seen 3 or 4 different approaches on Twitter or from other analysts that are all kind of aiming at that area to some degree.
Well,
which means it will definitely not happen, by the way.
Right. Yeah, we'll wake up to 44,000. But I mean, at least for me with Supertrend, I do like using the areas as targets or resistance. So right where you said about 36,000, you see it kind of flat, get a little flat there, and that's kind of where I would expect to either see a wick or a pullback, and that would be a great opportunity for people to reload possibly, or take profits on a short. But like you said, we usually don't get what we want. So we'll see what happens around here.
Since I've never honestly, I've never explored Supertrend and nobody's ever really explained it to me. Do you prefer it on the 4 hour? Is it effective on every time frame? Is it like many indicators where,
so if you're swing trading, I would say 4 hours. But if you're kind of a long-term, midterm holder, I mean, the daily is pretty hard to beat, because if you look back at the Supertrend on the daily, I mean, it flipped bullish about 11,000. And again, I was looking for 10,000, 9,000 to reload a dip. And all of a sudden this thing goes, hey, we're bullish at 11,000. I loaded up more there, loaded more up at 16,000. That was that big dip. We saw everyone like, oh, bull market's over. Same thing when you got to touch, reload here. So from ever since 11,000, this thing say, hey, we're in a bull market. You buy the dip. Same here. We touched here. We didn't close. Great dip. So for me, I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep holding 11,000, 16,000. I'm not selling. And it's going to ideally give me some time to take profits before it even flips bearish. So for me, daily, I think I would use Supertrend on the daily to start like, hey, are we in a bull market or bear market? This shows bull, dips are for buying. And then I would come back to the 4-hour and start looking at the different factors and start to see, hey, if I want to swing trade, you know what, 40,000 good place to sell. What do you buy here and kind of swing trade? So I guess it depends on what kind of trader you are. If you're going to be a midterm or kind of scalper swing trader.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge indicator guy. I mean, I love
Yeah.
RSI, but only for looking for divergences. And I've been
Yes.
through them all, but I mean, it's really hard to argue with what you just showed on the daily.
And like you said, I know I'm using this indicator. I'm also not a big indicator guy because I think everyone thinks there's this golden indicator that can predict the future. You can't. Things are going to get false negatives. Some are going to work better in bull markets, bear markets. But for me, in a trending bull market, super trend's just a really good reminder. And it's based on ATR, average true range. So it's just kind of like, as long as it's not breaking these points, to me, I'm going to kind of use it. I would never trade solely on just super trend, because I think even if you back test these, it might miss. Like over here, it's trying to say sell, and then boom, it goes up there. But just as kind of a reminder, I like using that. And I really like pairing it with OBV because, again, volume is very hard to fake. Volume to me isn't really an indicator. It's saying, hey, are people buying more or selling? So right now we're seeing OBV kind of peaked over 40K, coming back. But if this breaks, it's like, hey, we have the buyers. And that kind of throws my indicators out the window, because if people are buying, obviously there's demand.
So you use for your volume analysis, you strictly use OBV. I notice you don't have
Yes.
volume candles at the bottom of the chart.
I used to get so, and maybe I could go back to it, but starting out investing, I would get so thrown off of volume candles. I would see huge, big green candles. I'd buy in the next day, red, it all dropped. And so for me, volume, you can have big candles, but they can also be not ideal candles. It can be huge sell-off that's led after a bunch of big green candles, or big red candles may not mean bearish, but people see it as bearish. So I try to kind of like filter out the noise and kind of use OBV, because I'd rather see, hey, if the volume's big, is the volume more buyers or more sellers? And I think it just helps me paint a better idea versus just kind of the candles, the typical volume candles. I mean, I do have it still on my chart, and I do like looking sometimes, but I mean, I guess, yeah, like this would kind of scare me, just seeing a
Descending volume with rising price, of course.
Yeah.
Also, like it's funny, especially in this market, and depending on what exchange you're on, like, you know, they're somewhat inefficient, and like one big volume candle can be some fat finger idiot just dropping the hammer on his keyboard accidentally, and it completely fools you. It's not as like since every exchange is almost its own market, right?
Yes.
I want to tell you guys, by the way, anyone who has questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I did not say that earlier. And somebody asked, I saw, where do you trade on for low leverage shorts? That was a question for you. Okay. Someone wanted to know where you're trading.
Yeah, I'm still on Femex for my shorts. All my leverage trading still Femex.
I love Femex, man.
Yeah.
They're the sponsor. Actually, I didn't even mention that because I'm just because I'm an idiot. I don't know how to YouTube.
Yeah.
I know how to Zoom better than you.
Yeah, apparently.
So like, it's hilarious to me because but it's not just you. Like, everyone here is some kind of like tech genius in some manner, a trade god, and nobody can figure out how to like get the sound on their Zoom call in time ever. Yeah. I don't get it. So when you're not looking at Supertrend, what are the other techniques you use?
Again, I'm still pretty big on fundamental analysis.
Yeah.
Back in March, the second COVID hit, I was like, hey, buy Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin did not drop because of Bitcoin. It dropped because of the global pandemic and things like that. So in my mind, I'm like, I know this is going to be a good buy opportunity. I know no one wants to buy, but I'm buying. And then for me, it's just like pushing my own narrative in my head, where it's just like, the people that understand Bitcoin and crypto are bullish because they finally get it. The ones that don't think it's for criminals. They think it's internet money. They think it's not backed by anything. And so for me, just like this whole 8 months, even my indicators, if they're saying to sell, I'm like, no, at the end of the day, this thing's going up and there's no point fighting the trend. And I think a lot of people in 2017, when we went into the bear market, they tried fighting the trend the whole way down. And although it's like I wanted to be bullish, I knew to be bullish. I was like, you know what? This is the time to be short. Let's wait for that time where things flip. And I think Supertrends kind of helped me to like double check my bias. But it's like, hey, no, like if we're in a trend, just don't fight the trend. Play it. And I don't care your indicators. Like RSI can show oversold for so long. Doesn't mean it's like a good time to like buy, or it can be overbought. Doesn't mean it's the top. So it's just like with indicators, definitely use them secondary. And I think that's just something I see a lot of people that are like, RSI is like this, I'm gonna go buy it. It's like, hey, Bitcoin
Yeah.
or BitConnect's RSI is still showing oversold. You shouldn't go buy BitConnect. Like, just make sure you're like, have a decision. Like, you know what? The chart looks good. I'm feeling good about Bitcoin. Then let me go check RSI to see if it kind of confirms. And if it doesn't, that's not a huge deal. Or it's like, maybe like, wow, RSI is so bad. Yeah, I really probably shouldn't. But I would just, like you said, I would be careful with indicators, and I'd be careful to be thinking there's some magic golden one that's going to just print money.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not the government. We can't do that.
No, yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, I use RSI, and maybe if something goes extremely overbought or oversold, it gives me a reason to look
Yes.
at it, but that's about it. And I literally only use it to find divergences. And for me, you know, it's just like I said, it's not 100%. It's just like, I know how to trade that. I'm comfortable with it. Yeah. And I know how to, more importantly than anything, I just know how to not lose a lot of money if I'm wrong when I trade those, you know. And but listen, on this drop, I was, you know, the last couple drops, we had 4-hour bullish divergences with RSI, and I was looking for a third one here, and it just didn't happen. And the train kind of left the station. And that's fine, you know, but I don't think the indicator let me down. It's just what I was looking for to happen that would have been an indication for me to trade just didn't happen. You know what I mean? But do you find that, since I'm just not a scalper, respect the hell out of you guys who do it. Do you find that like there's always a trade no matter what Bitcoin's doing? Like you could sit down and trade Bitcoin every single day, no matter what?
Yeah, there's days I will just sit down for a couple hours and I will just take trades because there's always something there. Sometimes, I mean, fortunately, there's been enough volatility. I don't have to do pretty high leverage, but if I generally want to sit down, there's going to be a trade on leverage. There's going to be a trade on Uniswap. There's going to be a trade somewhere. And for me, the second I'm out of a trade, you just have to like shut off thinking about that coin that you're done with. So for me, if I'm in a coin, that is the only coin I care about. I'm bullish on it. And the second I close, no more charge. And I think so many people get so much FOMO because, like, even me, Dot, I was in it, made 16%, thought I caught a great little bounce, and it's just flying. But I don't look at the charts anymore. It's like, I'm done with that. That's not the trade. There's always another trade. And once you realize there's thousands of coins, there's Uniswap, there's leverage trade. Like, I could close every trade right now, jump in, and the next hour I could find a decent trade with good risk, good reward, put money in it, and I could arguably make profit. So there's just like,
people in this market, though, people in this market, they like wife up the first ugly coin they find that'll give them the time of day. Yeah, I agree with you. You can't do that. I used to actually have to have a rule, which I probably honestly should go back to, but the fact that I share charts with other people kind of eliminated it. But I had a rule because I was such a shitty revenge trader. That if I closed a trade, whether win or loss, I had to close the chart for 24 hours. Like I would not allow myself to look at that coin again for 24 hours because nothing good comes of it. Either it continues up and then you FOMO in higher at the top, or you get pissed that you lost and you move your stop loss and you just take another entry at the same spot and completely invalidate your plan. And it's interesting. I talked to Peter Brandt on here not that long ago, and he's been trading for 60 years. And like, he still won't even allow himself access to his trading APIs during the day when he's looking at charts.
That's
like, yeah, his rule is that he lets his orders trade for him. So when the market closes, he sets all his orders and then he's done. And he's like, I don't change them. And even if I'm looking at a chart, I don't allow myself to actively trade anything that I'm looking at. But it's crazy that like you could be doing this for 60 years and have that level of self-awareness that you could still like
mess up,
basically wreck yourself by being over emotional. As I think that's really a great rule, to be able to like separate the emotion from whatever coin you're trading and just move on to the next one.
Yeah. And I mean, I think maybe 3 months ago, I broke my rule, but same thing. It's like, I lost the trade on leverage trade. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make it back right away. went a little bit bigger, pushed it, lost that. And then once you've gone to that emotional thing, it's just a roller coaster, and then just absolutely lost a ton of money that I would have normally done if I was like level headed. But it's good to know, like, hey, I don't make a lot of mistakes when I'm level headed and not emotional. The second I get emotional, make mistakes. And then same with even making profit. You made a monster trade. The second you make that trade, people are like, what's next? What should I invest next? It's like, no, there will be more. And so for me, I've been a lot better in this bull run. I'll make a really good trade. I just send 20, 30% straight to my bank, cash out. It's done. I don't even look at it. Then I can go reinvest. But it's like you said, I'll give 24 hours. Let's calm down. Let's figure out what the next trade is. Let's do some more research, because I still, in 2017, the second I'd be done with the trade, I would go dump it into the next coin thinking I could just compound profits. That would take a loss. Then I'm revenge trading. And then I just undid all my profits. So
It's like being that dude at the poker table who like is like, my limit is $25 a hand, and it's like 25. Well, I lost that 50 to get it back. 75 is gone. Got to double it to 100, and you just compound your losses endlessly. It never works out.
And honestly, poker. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of poker players because there's a lot of gamblers on crypto Twitter. But for me, it's so true with poker. It's like, yeah, it's tempting to keep calling and keep throwing a little money in to get that pot. But hey, you've lost a little bit, just fold, wait for the next hand. All of a sudden you get flopped an incredible hand. Here's your big money maker. You feel way better about this one. Push on that hand versus like, don't just be stuck in a hand. Don't be stuck in a trade. If a trade just keeps dropping, just cut it. Like, you don't have to wait for it to recover. Go recover with a better chance, a coin with that has a better chance to recover. And yeah, you pretty much just nailed it exactly.
Yeah. There were some other questions. I'm just going to scan through here. Someone says, well, I'm assuming they're talking to you. They couldn't be talking to me. Why did you close that 100x long at the exact bottom? You could have just created another account, so you didn't need to look at it for a few months. That must be a joke.
No, I did that.
Oh, you did. All right.
Yeah, it'd be worth a couple million, but I messed that one up. So I back in the March bottom, I did 100x long the exact bottom on Femix at like 3,600, and I closed it because I made a $5,000 profit in the same day because it pumped up to 5,000. So for me, I'm going to be level headed, and I closed that trade. Little did I know that was the absolute bottom, and I think
generational bottom.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, I had the same thing, and I wasn't even trading it. Like I've told the story a million times, but that was March 12th, and it was like 9,000, and then when I went to bed, it was like 6,500 or something, and I was like, I'm just going to throw some stink bids in here because I thought 6,000 was the bottom. Honestly, I didn't see the BitMEX cascade coming. And I just threw in like $4,000 bids spot. And I woke up 8 or 9 hours later. Just like the longest night of sleep I'd gotten in history. I don't know why. Like I'd never sleep more than 6 hours. And price was like 6,200 when I woke up. Yeah. It was the same as when I went to sleep. I was like, cool, whatever. And it took me like 30 minutes to realize that price had dropped during that 12 hours, like below 4,000 and come back, and that I had filled.
So you thought it was like staying at 60?
Yeah, I thought it was just the same price as when I went to sleep, and I woke up and I was up, 50%.
Yeah.
But I did exactly what you did. I closed most of it, right? I was like, I just made 50% while I was asleep.
Yes.
I'm not questioning this and whatever. And those buys would have been likely the generational bottom of Bitcoin. Yeah. Someone, I can't find the exact question, but they basically asked to both of us if we're more bullish on Ethereum, if we believe that it has, more room to run than Bitcoin. And if so, why even be in Bitcoin? I mean, for me, I do believe that Ethereum has probably more potential upside, but that, I still am more comfortable with the majority of my holdings in Bitcoin. I'm heavily exposed to both, but, I think that Bitcoin will continue to be the safest bet and has the best narrative. And also, I'm just not the kind to like throw the whole stack into one thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I do think Ethereum will, from here, at least I could see it almost a 2x, probably run to 2,000. But for me, it's like I'm still holding Ethereum from 380 because you look back to Supertrend, super helpful. But I'm just sitting on back 380. I have no reason to sell. I have no reason to buy more. I'm just going to stay with that. Bitcoin, I'm already in from most of my bags are about 16,000. I have no reason to sell. So I'm not trying to go heavy on buy more dips on Bitcoin. For me, I'm going to go look for the alts that haven't performed, I'm going to go look for the other projects. So I guess if I was somebody I was not exposed to Bitcoin or Ethereum here, I might lean a little bit more towards Ethereum, but it's just hard to ignore Bitcoin. So if you're going to buy Ethereum, you might as well buy Bitcoin if you're kind of new to the markets. There's no point to just exclude one.
Yeah. I think it's kind of now it's irresponsible not to be exposed to both. Yes. It's like that little Asian girl in the meme. Why not both?
Yeah. Yes. I saw that today.
And someone asked, and this is a good question, asking us about taxes and how you handle your taxes. Do you move into stable coins instead ever? I can tell you guys that like I take 40% basically out of the market every single time I have a profitable trade, which is slightly obviously more than like my tax bracket. But these days I go into USDC and I park it on like BlockFi, Voyager, and Celsius and just earn my 8.5 to 9.5%, which I mean, I used to have so much more emotional trouble selling before that existed. When it was just like selling spot into dollars and your dollars were doing nothing. But now when I know I can just sit there and gain yield while I'm waiting for the next trade, is incredible.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you can relate, but I almost got to the point at some point I have to take like profit, because I would like take crypto profits. I'd invest those crypto profits into stocks. I'd make money on stocks, and I take that profit, and it's like, and then I'd go throw it in like a Celsius network, and I'm making more profits. And it's like at some point you have to just like take risk-free profits, or you have to just be done investing in investment, or like
I don't even think about it anymore, because I've played that game. And there was a moment like in 2017, 18, where I was almost the guy who had like the paper profits, but would have had to sell at a terrible price to cover it. Not a lesson that you want to learn, and the hard way. So for me, it's like every single time I take a trade, I pretend that like I owe the full taxable load on that exact particular trade, and that money never comes back into the market. You know what I mean? Like it'll sit, like I said, it'll sit in a stable coin, but that's going to go out to dollars to pay taxes.
Exactly.
Fucking taxes. Like we could literally live anywhere in the world and be so much wealthier than we are.
There's some places
this bullshit.
There's like, we don't even pay capital gains. Like it's free. Like there's no taxes.
Puerto Rico. Yeah. You could. So as an American, since people are asking about being an American, and every time I mention taxes, people are like, "Bro, come to Portugal." Yeah. I'm like, just because I bring my surfboard over there to hang out with you idiots doesn't mean that like I don't owe money to Uncle Sam. I come over there for 30 years and I still owe every penny of taxes in the United States. So for Americans, the only place to really get a significant benefit is Puerto Rico, because it's still in the United States, but they have their own tax laws. It's like they pay like 4% taxes and 0% capital gains.
Yeah.
You have to live there. You have to prove residence. You have to be there, 6 months and a day. They even say that people have like moved there and kept their house in the mainland and have done the 6 months there. And then they've said, no, you still have a house like in Florida, so they take it very seriously that you have to like really move there. Clearly not an option for me and my family. But if I was a single dude, I would be just doing some salsa merengue right now on a beach.
Ain't no capital gains.
I mean, you're over a career, you're talking about, if you're a successful trader, you're talking about, boatloads of money.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So now you just basically, you keep it in mind as well, and you're constantly taking the profit out.
Yeah. No, I mean, ever since 2017, it's like, it sucks, but you move to USD, and I'll invest that in traditional markets. I have my own investor, USD, like mutual bonds, or ETFs, all that kind of stuff. Just that way I'm like, hey, I'm not going to touch this money. This is going to go grow. And then I leave that. So it's like, all right, when tax season comes around, then it's like, all right, I actually have money to pay. Cause I think a lot of times like 2017, it's like, wow, I have to liquidate a lot of assets to pay. And you didn't want to sell at the time. So it's like, hey, let's be smarter. And plus, like you said, if you do 40, 50%, you might even make more profits just preparing for taxes. You're like, oh, I have some extra money left over.
Yeah, and then you don't know as much as you thought. But that was the lesson. 2017, people had to pay taxes on April 15th, 2018, when the market was super, super wrecked. And had to cash out. And I mean, that's just, no, I'm not trying to go down that road. Somebody wants to know what your long-term, what bags you hold long-term.
I mean, I've learned, as bullish as I am, like I'm not going to commit myself to long-term. unless I would say like Ethereum and Bitcoin right now are my longest holds, because for me, if I make a couple 100% profit, I'm selling, I'm moving to the next. I'm going to keep flipping and keep compounding. And that's been something I've been showing like my Discord group. Back in, I think May, I started with a couple Bitcoin, and I was just showing people, hey, with less than 1% risk, you're going to put really tight stop loss, and you're just going to jump in and out of altcoins on Bitcoin. And currently, I think the fund's up to about 260,000 from, I think 17,000 was the start. And that's not being tied to a coin. It's just, you either get stopped for 5% or it runs 20, 30%, you sell, and you just keep compounding. And there'd be months I would hit like a 30% win rate. I'd make 60% that month. And that's where I realized, I was like, hey, it's not about win rate. It's literally about, you let the runners run and you just keep cutting these little ones. And I wasn't stuck bag holding. I was like, wow, I just have so much free capital. And then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, I found this gem on Uniswap. I have all this free capital. I don't have to sell positions. You dump that, you move profits. And that's just something I've really learned. It's like, you don't have to make crypto as risky as people make it sound, but somehow they still find a way. And some people still buy Dogecoin and Ripple at the top, and they're still holding. It's just like, okay.
I think you're unique. I mean, you make it sound very easy, A, and B, it is something that anyone could theoretically do if they can accept losing, and people just can't accept losing.
Yes. You have to put,
so the whole core of that strategy, and any strategy, is like accepting the minute you take a trade, accepting exactly what you're going to lose.
Yeah. But I will admit, like you said, with like sleep, ever since moving to the strategy, I sleep better. I'm not as stressed because I have a 5% stop and I go to bed and I wake up, I'm like, oh, it got hit. What's the next trade? You don't sit there like, wow, I lost. I need to keep holding. I need to double down. It's like, no, that didn't work. And I mean, it sucks sometimes. I'll get stopped for 5-10%. The coin runs 90% a week later. But same thing.
We've been there.
Yep. But I've also, like, the feeling of getting liquidated, the feeling of bag holding a coin for loss, a rug pull. I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to feel that again. And I was like, wow, it's actually optional. You don't have to have that feeling of, I lost 50%. I woke up and my money's all gone. It's like, oh, I lost a couple hundred, a couple thousand. That's fine. Get the next trade, And just like poker, it's like, you keep folding your antes, you keep getting your blinds. Like, oh, who cares? Just a little bit. And all of a sudden you hit a royal. It doesn't even matter what you've been doing all year.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I've been playing it. And again, like you said, it's easy, but it's not, because emotions are very hard. And it's taken me years and years to actually force myself to, you almost just turn into a robot where you just don't have that.
Yeah. That's dude, that took me like, I feel like it took me like 20 years to get that, honestly, almost, or something. Cause I was just kind of a gambler, but, it's like a superpower, not caring if you lose.
Yes.
I mean,
you have to be desensitized, and it is a weird thing with.
But you touched on it so importantly. Like, you can be right 3 out of 10 times and be profitable.
Yes.
I mean, and anyone who doesn't believe that, I can vouch that it is 100% true. Also, another thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that most traders who do it for a really long time, like, they'll have years where there's like barely make anything or don't make much. And then it's that 1 or 2 huge years or 5 huge years or whatever that they make all their money. And it's the same in a year with trades. You basically just like base hits and strikeouts 90% of the time. And then you just hit this 1 or 2 massive home runs and they make your entire year.
Yeah.
You do some massive 20, 30X while you're sleeping one morning and sell that. And you're like, good. Like, this year, it's absurd already. Like, the first week,
like baseball, it's like you hit 300% or 300, you're hitting great.
You're an all-star.
You're striking out 7, or you're not getting on 7 out of 10 times. If you can, and like trading, like, people forget, like, trading, you can actually have an edge. It's not like the casino. The house isn't coming for you. You can't beat the casino, but like trading, like, you can get an edge. You can actually push that. You can do 50, 60, 70%. And so if you're with good risk management doing above 30, 40, like, you're a profitable trader. And you start going y'all have months where I'm like 80% win rate, and it's just incredible. And you're just like, well, you can't lose. But then you got to forget, sometimes there's months there's 30%. So as long as you can weather the storms and really push when things are hot, like you said, like, you have that amazing year of trading, that's all you need. And just don't expect every year to be a super profitable year. Don't expect every coin to be a home run. You just have to for me, I like to think, how much can I lose on each trade? I don't say, oh,
Same.
if this hits, I'm going to make 10 grand. No, it's like, oh, if I lose, I'm down like 20 grand. I probably won't do it. Or you kind of rethink, and it's just part of being that robot. You can still be a gambler at heart, and I'm still a gambler at heart, but I go,
Same.
all right, if my gamble's wrong, how much do I lose? And it's like, do I still want to take the trade? Yeah. And then I'll still do it. So
Craziest thing is I can still degen out like on sports and fantasy
yeah.
and all that crap. I just can't do it with trading anymore. For whatever reason, I finally came to that like Zen Buddhist moment
Yeah.
where I just kind of accepted my losses. Everyone in the comments is asking about easy. I don't know if that's an annoying
Oh yeah,
question or
that's I can't post without someone's like, how's easy? How easy? So easy
it's
again, that's one. Got in about $2, pumped to $10,
it went
5x.
nuts.
Yeah. So it's great. People didn't take profits on the way up. People probably bought at $10. And unfortunately, it's still paired with Ethereum. And Ethereum's been on a historic run the past 3-4 months. So why would you hold easy? Everyone wants to keep. So I think easy is maybe around $4 now. It's like I'm still up 100% on my holdings. I am still holding because I do see the team, the fundamentals, like it's all there. It's just one where, yeah, I mean, I probably could have taken more profits too, but I'm still holding, still in profit. And eventually I think it's going to break through, but it's just hard when Ethereum is doing so well. It's like everyone's like, oh, why am I holding this coin that's going down? I'd rather go to Ethereum. And I mean, I would say I almost even broke my rule on that one where I probably should have cut it earlier. But I'm actually like, now I'm kind of stuck in it, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to think of that as a midterm hold. I'm still in profit.
But stuck in it at a 2x is not the same.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what, yeah, that's
97%.
Yeah. So it's like, I have to keep reminding people, they're like, oh, you wrecked on easy. It's like, no, I'm still up double, but like, I understand you maybe got in later, and that's what's tough too. It's like you post all these things and you don't know where people get entries, and I can see why people are upset, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, you have to cut it or you have to use a stop loss. Like I don't have a stop on it because I'm in from the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of hold this and see where it goes. And I think, I don't know, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, you got emotional people following you. Somebody said, Scott, can we talk about the 40K barrier and why it's proving to be such a barrier? Is Tether the thing keeping it down? If you follow me at all, I don't give even two little shits about Tether.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me. I think that it's an old narrative from years ago, and sure, maybe it was used to pump the market years ago, but at this point, that's not what's moving Bitcoin's price. You can't like have Michael Saylor literally like on every podcast and Twitter screaming about how they're buying billions of dollars and be worried about Tether that only has a $24 billion market cap. It could be a bump in the road, but I certainly don't think that's what's like holding it at 40,000. Dude, we were in the low 30,000s like 2 days ago. 40,000 is 40,000 is a dream right now. I think that the reason we dropped from this area, obviously there's a lot of selling interest and a lot of liquidity, and some of that is still there, and that's why you see bullish SFPs and bearish SFPs and people with supply, demand, and order blocks, all these things, all these strategies everyone's drawing. It's just different ways of finding where there's going to be a whole lot of people interested in buying and a whole lot of people interested in selling. And I still think, especially after you saw this sort of impulse move down 30%, you're obviously going to have people who are still bearish and think that they need to sell. And so this is the area that they're doing it. You're just going to see a lot of selling in this area. It's going to take a real push through, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
Word for word, same thing. Tether, that's old narrative. It's just, at least for me, I can tell when people are kind of newer to the market, they hear about Tether, it sounds scary, but it's just like, Tether, yeah, like you said, maybe helped in the very beginning years and years ago. It couldn't do what it's doing right now. And how many times it's been audited? Maybe there's still some corrupt stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, every one of my friends I know that like wouldn't touch Bitcoin 2017 all hit me up. Like I see so much retail. You see all these millionaires, billionaires, hedge fund. It's just like these guys aren't idiots. Visa's not an idiot. PayPal, Square, like these companies have done research, and there's a reason they're all jumping on board. And it's not because, oh, Tether's just keeping everything in float. And it's just like there is a demand. And
yeah, common sense is a hell of a drug, man.
it's hard to take.
But I agree with you. It's like, and people always, I have the same sort of debate about regulation. Like, regulation's coming, no question. And there might be some dumb regulation. I don't know. But I can tell you that guys like Bill Miller and Paul Tudor Jones and Michael Saylor don't just whimsically put hundreds of millions or billions of dollars into an asset without phoning a friend
Yes.
and saying, hey, is this going to get regulated away, and are we going to get destroyed? You know what I mean? And especially, I think it's important for people to realize that when a company puts their cash reserve into an asset, they're not selling it. Like they have lawyers and shareholders and a board. And if he says it's his cash reserve and that's what they're using it for, is it's a hedge, the price doesn't matter. They're going to eventually keep buying, and they're not selling. imagine like a billionaire taking short-term capital gains and like panicking on a 30K Bitcoin buy and selling at 35 because crypto Twitter said it's going to 10. And so I think people get very caught up in, well, old narratives, like you said. It's like, this isn't the same market as 2017. It's matured. And they also just get caught up in these emotional ideas of all the bad things that can happen. And the signs, the bullish signs, are just so vivid to me. Just run, I think this year we'll see central banks starting to hold Bitcoin. I don't think the United States will, but I think that we'll start to see
it. We'll be last, but we're coming.
Yeah, here we are. And I mean, there's some dumb regulation ideas, but regulation is not going to destroy Bitcoin now.
No. And I think they've realized like they can't just regulate. Like if they regulate it, it's, what I'm trying to say, they just can't stop it at this point. So they have to be like, all right, we have to find a way that it can work for us. And so, regulation might suck, but at the end of the day, like regulation is going to be huge for mass adoption. So,
yeah, I agree. So someone said we need a bot that counter trades our emotions. And you know what? As funny as that sounds, I know he put a smiley face next to it. I even tweeted something today. I was like, that moment when you have bought something and then you feel like, God damn it, I should have bought more. And then when you really are about to hit the buy button to finally buy more, that's when you should be selling.
Yes, 100%. And any trade, you're like, you know what? I need to go all in on this one. Right before I hit buy, you go, I'm just going to wait 10 minutes. And you're like, wow, okay, I'm glad I didn't. Or like some of my best trades, I'm going to throw just a teeny bit, like nerds. I was like, I'm just going to throw a little bit in that one. Pulls 100x. Would have never thought that, but that's how it goes. And I think,
but you would have never held the 100x if it was a bigger position.
That too. And I think there's some merit to that, because I forget who said the quote, but they're like, your smallest positions are generally going to be the best positions versus the big ones. You're either micromanaging it, you're too emotional. Because I mean, there's no doubt if you have a big position that you can't afford to lose, you're going to be so emotional. And that's rule one: do not be emotional trading. But if you can do a small trade, great. And that's why I think a lot of people paper trading, they do really well. They throw money, they get slaughtered because they start caring about it. And so like, treat it like
paper trading is great for like practice, but it's not gonna derec you. But what you just said is really interesting about the small positions, because I think that's why Uniswap has been so profitable. Certainly for me, and probably a lot of people, is because I'm literally don't care if it goes to zero.
Yes.
So like, maybe it'll make me rich. I don't need to sell this. Because if zero is your stop loss, then there's literally no reason to manage the downside of the trade. I mean, listen, like if I buy something and it's down like 80% and zero is my stop loss and there's like no team anymore, I'll go ahead and sell and take my loss. But it really, I think that's an important point. And we were talking about revenge trading. It's counterintuitive, but like you said, you double down, you double down to try to get it back. And in reality, if you're going to take a trade on the same asset, you should probably be cutting your size in half.
Mm-hmm.
Same with poker or blackjack. So someone said, when will you guys take my money for crypto investing so I can degen gamble all the profits on roulette and hold them? Now you got to make your own profits, bud.
And you don't take profits at the casino. That doesn't sound like.
I mean, I've watched enough Hollywood movies to know that they give you a really nice room and comp meals and bring you back in the limo and make sure your flight doesn't leave to get you back in the casino.
Yes.
I mean, it really is the same thing though. Like every time, and like I only get, like I go to casinos for fun with my friends or whatever, but inevitably one of us hits huge the first day and goes home broke 3 days later.
Yep. 100%. Because what do? You take those profits and you throw them right back in, and you don't stop.
You're God tier gambler now, right?
Yep.
You're the,
and what does everyone say? Like, oh, I was gambling. I was up 2,000. It's like, how much do you walk away with? And then I lost it all. Like very few stories are like, I was up, I took risk management, I walked away, and I invested that, and I made a smart decision. It's like, no, you're there to have fun, and you should treat it having fun. And I almost treat Uniswap as gambling. I was like, having fun.
Yeah.
Let's see what this coin does, and leave it at that.
The gains are there. So I know we're getting here with the time, but I know, and I saw on Twitter you've had some like pretty crazy calls and trades the last couple of weeks. Is there anything that like you have bubbling right now, or any of those that you're still in and bullish on?
Ramp, I think that one I got in at 4 cents. I think it's up to 26 cents now. Don't know where that one's going. I have my moon bag left. If that goes to $1, that's great. I think it's way too high to get in right now. Shopping, I'm still kind of holding. I don't know if they've released, they're supposed to release some big news today. I think XLM, I kind of bought some on the dip. Ethereum, Bitcoin, I'm still holding, still bullish on those. And I'll probably after this go spend a few hours, go look through some Uniswap and Binance and hopefully find something else. And maybe I'll post and I'll tag you for the show and see if there's something
Please
else.
do. But yeah, I just like count on my friends to find stuff because I'm too dumb to do that level of fundamental analysis. And you can't even do TA on Uniswap coins unless you go to like these knockoff trading view sites and whatever, So yeah, I really, man, I think that crypto Twitter is an amazing resource for finding coins like that. Like I still go there and just get trade ideas. It's just kind of crazy. It's hard to cut through the noise when you're first there.
Oh yes,
I think
it's
like
overwhelming.
impossible. That's the problem. But like once you find those few people that you kind of you can absorb their ideas and sort of put them into your own system, and that's so important too. Is people just copy stuff, and you need to have at least your own like qualifications for what makes a good trade or a tradable coin, and not just blindly follow. You'll follow someone who's like in 3x below, like you said, like you're in easy at 2. They'll like pull up your Twitter feed and 4 days later buy at 8 and be like, you said this was a great trade.
Or the number one thing I say, I will post a trade. Here's a great setup. Here's great. No one takes a trade, or maybe, some people do. 2 weeks later, it goes up 5x. They're like, oh, it's now a good time to buy. No, the good time to buy was when I said it was a good time to buy. And just people, they have such a hard time getting in when it doesn't look good, but they love getting in when it looks really good. And that's the worst time. It's that common
by the top of that huge green candle.
Yeah, because I always wonder who is buying these candles, but someone's got to do it.
So here's your chance before we get off. Like, where can everybody find you? Shill your Discord, whatever. I hate to use the word shill. I'm sorry, but tell people about it.
I don't even push the Discord. I usually let people.
I noticed. I didn't even know you had it until I see other people mention it.
No, that's just one of those things. I don't want to be like. That's just kind of a small side job for me, and it's just something. Honestly, I usually pay my taxes with that group, but it's one of those things where I spend a lot of time there. I like bouncing off ideas with the guys. We've kind of built a really nice community. I like to keep it small. I like to keep it just like I don't know. Once you go too big, you just get a lot of people that are just kind of toxic for the community. So I don't really like pushing the Discord much, other than just a couple, like here's some calls, some trades. I do post a lot of free stuff on Twitter, obviously. And so I'm not going to go push the group, but if you want to, it's in my bio. And then Twitter, I share a lot of ideas on there. And
he does.
You can be profitable following my calls on Twitter if you want, but.
Dude, thank you so much. I think this is really enlightening, and I can tell from the comments that people really liked it. Anytime you're welcome back. Like if you if you have some charts you just want to share and whatever, just hit me up if we go live.
Maybe I'll do a little Uniswap gem hunting live stream for you.
Yeah, man, that would be awesome if we could do that. You definitely let me know.
Okay.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thank you guys all for being here. Yeah, of course. I'm supposed to tell you to hit like button and sign up for Femex in the thing, and you can check out Income. You can check out Income Sharks also in the thing. All right, guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Appreciate it, man.